When my wife, Claire, first mentioned the idea of an open marriage, I thought she was joking. We'd been together for 9 years, married for 6, and if you'd asked anyone who knew us, they'd say we were the stable couple, the kind others came to for relationship advice. I remember laughing awkwardly that night, waiting for her to crack a smile, but she didn't. She stared at me across the kitchen table, fingers tracing the rim of her wine glass, eyes cool and certain. "It's not that I don't love you," she said. "I just think we could use freedom." Freedom. The word felt like an echo bouncing off the walls. I nodded slowly, pretending to understand while my stomach twisted into a knot. Claire had always been restless, chasing new hobbies, new friends, new experiences. I used to find it exciting. Now, it sounded like she was preparing her exit strategy. That night, I barely slept. I kept wondering if I'd missed some sign, if the late nights at book club were really book club, if the sudden new gym routine had another motivation behind it. By morning, I'd convinced myself to be rational. Maybe this was just a phase, a conversation we'd laugh about in a few months. But 2 days later, she sent me an article about ethical non-monogamy with a smiling emoji. That's when denial stopped being an option. I didn't explode. I didn't accuse. I simply said, "If this is something you want, let's talk." She looked relieved, almost proud, as if she'd expected a fight and got a calm partner instead. What she didn't realize was that I wasn't calm. I was calculating. Over the next week, Claire drafted her rules for the open marriage. She wanted full honesty, separate boundaries, no emotional attachments, and absolute discretion. It was all written out like a business proposal. She seemed thrilled, even affectionate again, kissing me more than she had in months. It was as if the idea itself reignited her excitement. When she finally went on her first date, she told me it was just coffee with a coworker named Ryan. I nodded, kissed her on the cheek, and told her to have fun. But after she left, I sat in silence, listening to the clock tick. For the first time in years, I didn't feel powerless. While she explored her new freedom, I started paying attention to her tone, her body language, her messages left half open on the laptop. It didn't take long to see what was really happening. This wasn't about exploring or growth. It was about permission. She wanted to cheat without the guilt. The next few weeks were a strange performance. She came home glowing, humming while she cooked, suddenly complimenting me on my shirts, my cologne. Guilt looks a lot like affection when you don't know what to call it. Then one night, she came home late again, perfume thick enough to choke on. I asked if she'd had fun. "Don't be sarcastic," she snapped, eyes flashing with irritation. That's when I realized something important. She wasn't expecting me to participate in this arrangement. She assumed I'd wait at home like a loyal spectator to her freedom show. So I did what any understanding husband would do. I agreed to meet someone too. A woman named Julia, a friend from college who'd recently gone through a divorce. Claire's smile faltered when I mentioned it, but she recovered quickly. "Good for you," she said. Her voice was too bright, too sharp. The night of my date, I saw something in her eyes I hadn't seen in months. Panic. She tried to act indifferent, scrolling through her phone as I grabbed my jacket. "Don't wait up," I said gently. She didn't respond. When I came back past midnight, she was sitting on the couch, TV off, still in her work clothes. "So, how was it?" she asked, her tone light but tight around the edges. I just smiled. Liberating. She didn't sleep that night. I could hear her tossing and turning, sighing heavily, checking her phone. By morning, the tension was thick enough to slice through. Over breakfast, she finally snapped, "I didn't think you'd actually do it." I looked at her, calm as ever. "You wanted honesty, remember? I'm just following your rules." For the next few days, Claire tried to pretend everything was fine. She smiled too much, laughed too loudly, and texted me little things like, "Hope your day's going well," smiley face. Something she hadn't done in years. I could feel the shift. The control she thought she had was slipping through her fingers, and she didn't know how to grab it back. By the end of the week, she called off one of her dates. She claimed Ryan was too clingy, that he was catching feelings, which, apparently, broke her sacred rule of no emotional attachment. I didn't comment. I just nodded, sipping my coffee, pretending I wasn't enjoying every second of watching her unravel. That weekend, Julia invited me over for dinner. It wasn't romantic at first, just good conversation, laughter, and the kind of attention I hadn't felt in years. She actually listened when I spoke. No sighs, no eye rolls, no distracted glances at a phone. When I came home late that night, Claire was waiting again. Same spot on the couch. Same fake calm. Was she pretty? She asked. She was kind, I said simply. That answer hit harder than anything cruel I could have said. Kindness was something Claire hadn't offered in a long time, and we both knew it. She stared at me, eyes glistening, but pride kept her silent. The following morning, she suggested we pause the open marriage. She said she missed our connection, that things had gotten confusing. I almost laughed. Confusing? It had been perfectly clear from the start. She wanted excitement without consequences, validation without accountability. But now that the same game was being played against her, she couldn't stomach the rules she wrote. I think the experiment worked, I told her calmly. It showed us exactly what we needed to see. She looked relieved at first, probably thinking I meant we'd go back to normal. But I wasn't done. You wanted to explore, I continued. And I realized something while you were gone. I don't want an open marriage either. I want a real one, with someone who actually wants me back. Her face fell. Are you saying you're leaving me? I didn't answer immediately. I stood up, picked up the empty coffee mug she'd left on the counter, and rinsed it quietly. I'm saying I deserve honesty, not conditions, not half versions of love. For the first time in months, she didn't have a comeback. Just silence. The kind that screams louder than words. 2 weeks later, I packed my things. No fight, no scene, no begging. She tried to talk me out of it, saying we could work through this. But it was too late. You can't rebuild trust on top of ashes. A few days after I moved out, she texted me a picture of us from last year. Smiling at the beach, holding hands. I missed this, she wrote. I stared at it for a while, realizing I missed it too. But not her. I missed who she used to be before she traded loyalty for thrill. I never replied. Months passed. I focused on myself, therapy, gym, travel, small wins that didn't depend on anyone's approval. Claire reached out again once or twice, saying things like, I made a mistake, or we can fix this. But some things don't break. They end. One evening, Julia called me out of the blue. She'd just gotten a promotion and wanted to celebrate. We met for dinner, and as she laughed across the table, something clicked. For the first time in a long while, I felt peace. Not because I'd found someone new, but because I'd stopped fighting for someone who didn't want to be kept. A few days later, Claire showed up at my apartment unannounced. She looked tired, older somehow. I just want to talk, she said softly. I let her in. We sat for a while in silence before she whispered, I thought I could handle it. The open marriage. The idea of you with someone else. But I can't. I looked at her. Not angry anymore. Just distant. You didn't lose me when you wanted an open marriage, Claire. You lost me when you thought I'd stay after you did. She started to cry, but the tears didn't change anything. The woman who once asked for freedom now looked trapped inside her own choices. I walked her to the door. Take care of yourself, I said, and for once I meant it. As the door clicked shut behind her, I realized something simple and powerful. Sometimes the most shocking revenge isn't rage or betrayal. It's peace. The kind that comes when you finally stop needing closure from the person who broke you.